And hello, everyone, and welcome to Michigan Game Night, and welcome to the Tailgate Report, Week 3. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Timmer, and back with you off another Grandville Bulldogs win on our Air CT, and it was an impressive win in the first ever backyard Bulldog battle. Hard to believe it, the first time the two, as I said, backyard Bulldogs ever met. 45-27 Grandville over Byron Center, and a game, Chandler, where I think you're starting to see some of that Grandville hype train around the area. Maybe look at some of the polls, some of the thinking around the area, starting to show what maybe we knew after week one. A really impressive game for Grandville. They controlled things pretty well against a tough, physical Byron Center team.
Yeah, I think definitely the momentum is starting to build. After week one, you play a tough Grand Blanc team, and one not many people thought Grandville was going to pull out. They're able to win that one. Now you beat a Byron Center team that maybe the win was expected a little bit more there, but a completely different test than what you're looking at, where, as you said, a team that's much more built to play a physical style of football, maybe a better matchup to go against Grandville than what Grand Blanc was in week one. So a little bit different matchup there, but Grandville handling both of them. I mean, as you said, controlling most of that game pretty comfortably the entire time. There was a couple times Byron Center had a couple chances on some key downs, didn't execute. Grandville able to do just the opposite and pull out and make those stops when they needed to make some big plays and big conversions, and handle that one pretty convincingly.
And Grandville now has scored 45-plus points both weeks. The defenses looked well. Look good as well against, you think of the Grand Blanc offense, all the explosiveness that team has, a very tough, physical Byron Center team that did some interesting things. We'll look at some highlights in just a moment as well. And, yeah, we survived the Bulldogs versus Bulldogs battle. I know that was just a constant headache for me, at least. I would, and even listening back, like, you just out of habit say Bulldogs for the Grandville, like, oh, they don't know who we're talking about and whatever. Again, thanks to whoever did the scoreboard for Grandville, because they put dogs and Bulldogs, which is what I said I was going to use here on the show. I didn't use it because I got it in my own head and didn't do it, but whatever. We made it through, and we have got a heck of a rivalry game. And we do have a rivalry game this week. We'll talk about it more. We're going to recap this game too, but we flipped around our schedule thanks to Ron Cox and the Michigan Sports Radio Hudsonville broadcast team. They're going to go to Genesee, Caledonia, so they got another really good game too, an interesting game. But we are going to be at Hudsonville for Grandville, Hudsonville, and very excited. It felt like kind of a bit of a hole in the schedule, the way that things fell this year to not get to be there for that game. Very excited for that, and we'll have plenty of things to talk about it. We're going to hear from Tyson Mann, who's coming off an unbelievable 4-touchdown performance a little bit later on in our Captain's Corner interview segment, so we'll get to Tyson in just a second. But first, let's get back to Week 2. And like we did last week, we'll pull up some highlights here, CT, and we're going to start on the Grandville side. We're going to look at some of the positives from Byron Center as well this week, just because there are some things I think the Bulldogs are going to be able to learn, the Grandville Bulldogs are going to be able to learn, probably the Byron Center Bulldogs too, from that one. So we start out, obviously, talked about Tyson Mann. He goes, 86, 85 yards, whatever the math may be on this one, to the house. Made a move, cut open, and did what he's done before.
Yeah, you can just see the coverage team for Byron Center get bobbled up in the middle of the field just enough where a lane opens. Tyson able to find it and go the distance.
Next, this one got me. If you listen to the game, I'm not sure. I mean, Chandler, to the top of my head, I don't think there is a Grandville misdirection play that has fooled me, and it didn't fool me. So here's the deal, folks. This is inside baseball. If you listen back to my call, because I screwed it up, I said Kopko has the ball, and then literally all 11 defenders for Byron Center went not to Kopko. I'm like, oh, I was wrong. And then son of a gun, guess who had the ball? And you can talk through it, but again, the miscommunication, and you can see everyone's here. If we go back, everyone was there. That's why I was okay. And then here he is, 15 yards free. That's a well-drawn-up play.
Yeah, I think maybe you can even run it back one more time. Just this is what I saw live right here. Is you've got the safety in the middle of the field. And
this is Dennis Tyson. This is a clean show, folks.
Yeah. We're looking at the safety back here, and he's 10 to 15 yards behind the play, and he's still biting for the fake as the ball is running right at him. As you'll watch him.
Yep.
There he goes. He's going one way. Kopko's going the other.
And that's 15, 20 yards clear and an easy touchdown for Carson Kopko, who adds to his impressive season. This was a heck of a run from Tyson Mann. Break this one down.
Tyson Mann, that get to the second level and then just a spin move right there again. The safety, he sees the ball that time, but Tyson Mann able to put that nice move on and never makes contact, able to get in the end zone again.
Yeah, and that was his second of what would be 4 total touchdowns on the day. The Bulldogs then very good through the air. In particular, very good to the sophomore Easton Sadinsky, who really, we'll see some more plays from him, really kind of changed the picture in terms of the pass game.
Yeah, definitely. It was a weapon in the passing game after not playing week one, coming in here and being a threat, seeing multiple targets out of this offense.
Liz Carson under pressure, just chucks it up, maybe double coverage, doesn't matter because the sophomores got it, and what a change. And we'll talk about some of the different things Grandville did with the running back unit, but man, that's a really, really impressive thing. And how about one more Sadinsky pass right here? They rolled out every direction, this time play action boot, back across the left. This, I think, was a third down play, got it to Sadinsky, takes it down inside the 5. They scored after that play. So big conversion there to the sophomore. This says 30-yard run. It's actually a pass, and this was a 4th down play late in the game, pretty much iced it away. And this is Tyson Mann, so the other receiving back for the Bulldogs, getting open, and I still borderline live thought that he scored on this one, but just goes short. And then the freshman who picks up another touchdown, now 3 on the year for the freshman, Terry.
Nice goal line run here, just powering through. 59 yards, I believe it was, for Jaden Terry on the night. Nothing super flashy, but there you just see the strength to get in the end zone once again.
And you see some of the stats right there. And you'll see when we go through some of the Byron Center stuff quickly in just a second that Byron Center actually, by their own stats, and well, maybe you have to kind of compare them a little bit, actually had more total yards than the Bulldogs. But Grandville, mostly, that's the number. They nearly go triple digits on the passing game, and they definitely show off some different things. We saw them utilize a single wing on some of the 2-point conversion tries. I think they did on a 3rd down as well. We'll kind of get into some of those different things, but just going through some of the highlights. So we now go on to Byron Center because there are some things to learn, really almost more than Grand Blanc. In terms of Grand Blanc had a couple deep shots that worked, but we saw Byron Center do some things that, in particular this week, of course, we know what Hudsonville brings to the table, although Hudsonville has been more pass-heavy than ever, but this was one of a couple really impressive pass plays. This is the senior Schichtel finding Brady Breed, who just lays out, able to get that ball just barely any touch over top of Tyson Mann. Really nothing Mann can do on that sort of catch. And then right here, Schichtel, you able to use the legs as well. You've seen with West Ottawa, a lot of running out of Trey Carr. These are some of the things we're going to talk about this week, both that pass and then this run. Yeah,
I think Byron Center's most successful plays of the night were the quarterback run, whether that was designed or not, and both Schichtel and Tailgate had success doing so.
Now this. So this is a touchdown. It's not. I don't want to be, again, we get replay, we get to look at it. We saw it happen live. So this is Schichtel finding Otto, the wing back, open, and that is apparently an unbelievable grab back across his body. Man, it was close to being an unbelievable grab, but when you slow it down frame by frame, yeah, it maybe hit the ground. But you know what? It was a cool play at the end of the half. Whatever, it shocked everyone in the building. You can see some of the reactions on the Grandville side. Maybe not quite as much. You have a couple arms up for Byron Center. Mostly Bree here must just be thinking, yes, that's a touchdown. We'll take it. Touchdown. And then the Grandville side, I think I like Stockwell's reaction down there. Whatever. 10-yard run down the follow-up. And this is where they started changing things up a little bit. This is Landon Tungate, their sophomore. And, man, this kid's got wheels. And we'll talk about some different things Hudsonville has done before. This is another run from Tungate. The sophomore's speed really gave the Bulldogs some fits throughout the second half. As I won't call him a wildcat quarterback because he did throw the ball, and he is a quarterback, but the Bulldogs, there are some things to learn from what Tungate was able to do in the run game.
Yeah, definitely had a burst that Schichtel didn't have in the beginning of the game. Was still successful running the football, but Tungate, just the burst to get through the line, the defense a little bit slow to react, and before you know it, he was breaking off a couple long runs. I think it was almost 80 yards on his first drive in there, just strictly on him.
And it was solely him running all the way to the end zone. That was that 33-yarder. And they did find another touchdown pass later. This is again this is Tungate able to find a fellow sophomore in Lee. He dives past Jaden Terry and into the end zone. That would have been their final score of the day. A couple more runs that they followed it up with, but some good things to learn, and we mostly show those Byron Center highlights, Chandler, because as I mentioned, there are some really interesting and key things that we are able to learn from them when you look at what Hudsonville does so well. I want to go over a couple points from this game. First off, Tyson Mann. This was the game of the year for him, maybe the game of his career to this point in time. That's why I'm excited to get to talk to him, and you'll hear from him during this week's show. And, of course, this also plays during the pregame show on Game Night, our Scott Bates Farmers Insurance Agency pregame show. But talk about Tyson. As a running back in different ways, he was a pass catcher, of course, the kick return, one of the most complete offensive games we've ever seen out of him, and, of course, having to play on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, really just showcasing why he's an all-around player for this team. You see right away the special teams, he's going to contribute there. Has that playmaking ability. You're just letting him touch the football as many times as he possibly can. Week one, used a little bit more as a passing back. We saw that from him last year, depending on, the matchup and what kind of role he's going to be in. Definitely has the ability to be split out or just to be utilized in the passing game, and then almost has taken on a bit of a power back role as well at times. Led the way in carries this week for the Bulldogs, and has shown the ability to really run between the tackles as well. So, I mean, I think with the talent that they've got in the backfield, they have the versatility to kind of switch roles up, and I think that's going to be great for Tyson Mann. You see he can do a little bit of everything, and they can really utilize all his skill set.
Yeah, and you look at the running backs this week. I loved what Coach Siegel did. Remember, Junie Figueroa still injured. We're still expecting him back in a couple weeks. He maybe is more of that power back, that bigger back that adds one more component. But, you had Terry and Kopko for the most part in there. I think we might have seen Albrecht for a play or two when Kopko had a quick injury, and they played very similar roles at fullback, and more of a speed fullback type role. But at that left running back position, we saw Coach Siegel doing something really interesting, which was the freshman Terry and the sophomore Sadinsky, which, by the way, we're talking about combos for the future. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves a year or two down the road. I mean, we're looking at something right there with those two. But, I mean, you have the ability, you have the runner in Terry who had 59 really hard-fought yards. He's so shifty, able to kind of get those yards that you need. He reminds me in some ways more of, at this point in his career, more of not his brother, but his brother's running mate, Marcel Love, some of those years, but maybe with his brother's breakaway speed on top of it as well. That's whatever. But then you add on Sadinsky's ability to catch passes just like Mann. So when you bring him in, you've got two elite pass catchers plus the two tight ends out there. There's so many different things they can do, plus Figueroa coming back, plus Graverson can be a little bit more of a pounder too. I mean, they got a lot of different options with this running back group that they can mix and match. It's maybe one of the deepest running back units where everyone serves an interesting role and a perfect complementary role to each other.
Yeah, I mean, they've already showcased the depth 2 weeks in. A lot of times we've seen the Grandville teams throughout the years is always going to have depth, in terms of bodies at the running back position and guys that they're usually breaking in as the season goes along, and, of course, always building a program. You're building experience as you go along, but I think just the talent and I mean, the guys that really you can rotate in, and not saying that you don't lose anything, but I mean, if you feel confident rolling multiple running backs out there, you're not, there's certain players off the field or whatever, we're not going to be successful on this play. It's when you've got guys with talent like that you can rotate in and out depending on if some guys are playing defense, if some guys need a break. Early in the season, it's hot. Right. You guys are cramping up.
We've learned that.
Yep. I mean, but you've got the depth, and to 2 weeks in, be that deep at that running back position with that much talent is impressive.
Absolutely. And, you look at the other side of the ball. We showed some of the highlights of what Landon Tungate did with speed. Same with Schichtel. There are a lot of things that Byron Center, I think, is going to do closer to Hudsonville than Grand Blanc. Now, I will say, when you look at some of the Hudsonville stuff, they've been throwing the ball a lot this year, which you can't expect with the talent and what they bring back and some of the things about this team and how they look compared to past Hudsonville teams. But we know what Hudsonville still wants to be against Grandville. We've seen the power. We have seen the Wildcat quarterback element. We'll talk about that for sure. When you look at what Byron Center did, a lot to learn from this week in terms of getting that defense ready against a power spread team that likes to run, that likes to load it up. I think you'll see more 3-receiver sets against Hudsonville than we saw against Byron Center, which is mostly 2-receiver sets with a tight end and a wing back. But I think Byron Center gives something closer, especially because the pass game was still good. I think Byron Center gives something closer than what Grand Blanc brought, but it's kind of a step up when you look at the development of the pass game that Hudsonville has on top of it.
Yeah, it's kind of been a slowly morphing offense that the Bulldogs have had to go against when you're talking about pretty close to an air raid week one. Now a little bit more power, but still some spread system, to now you're coming right back to the familiar foe in Hudsonville and an offense that's giving you some struggles throughout, not necessarily in terms of total points, but just in terms of their ability to move the football and kind of dictate a style in a type of game. So I think it helps the Bulldogs having faced Byron Center this past week to kind of get eased into it a little bit. You've seen it, and then you're going to expect a lot more of the same this week.
And very important, other side of the ball, we said it during the game a couple of times, Byron Center knows how to stop the T. And you saw, we can kind of tell teams that know what they're doing against the T and that don't based on the way they lined up. They had a nice T defense. I like the way that they crowded the box, and they had the three, essentially utilized almost three safeties kind of on that top line. Like, there are teams like Rockford in particular that you can tell they know what they're doing against the T. Byron Center is one of those teams that have so much experience that I think it's very good for Grandville to be able to go against that sort of team, know what they're doing, because coming up, Hudsonville knows what they're doing against the T, Caledonia knows what they're doing against the T, Rockford, I think I flipped those two, but those three teams, I mean, it's a 3 out of 4 week stretch. We'll talk about this when we talk about this week and moving forward. This is the stretch, which, by the way, West Ottawa is 2-0, so they may present a bit of a challenge, and they've always been a little sneaky and tough, even in years that they haven't won a game against Grandville. So, yeah, it starts now. I think in terms of this real turnover is a good learning experience against Byron Center, a good win, and now things do turn over to Hudsonville in the rivalry game that I am so excited to be on the call. Friday night, finally, Friday night again. Friday Night Lights are back, 6:30 p.m., MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. You know where to find us. You know what's going on. I think that wraps up week 2 pretty well. We'll step aside when we come back. It's Captain's Corner, and it is Tyson Mann. Very excited to get to hear from him this week, coming off one heck of a performance the second week of the year. We'll be right back on Game Night.
Daniel the deer danced everywhere. He pranced through fields and jigged through rivers. Then he saw it. What a stage! A place no deer had dared dance before. The hood of a brand new car.
Hey, my car!
And the car was covered, thanks to Farmers Insurance. Deer Dance Floor, December 1st, 2014. Talk to a farmer's agent. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Contact the Scott Bates Agency today, 616-531-3441. A proud supporter of MichiganGameNight.com.
I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities. I've heard it said that professional coaches measure success in rings, college coaches measure success in championships, and high school coaches measure it in titles. But youth coaches measure success in smiles. At Centennial Securities, we're like the youth coach. Our success is measured by the smiles on the faces of our satisfied clients. If you're a Centennial Securities customer, you know what I mean. If you're not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
And welcome back to Michigan Game Night. Now very, very pleased to continue on our Captain's Corner segments with Grandville Senior running back, defensive back, and kick returner, as we definitely learned last week, Tyson Mann. And first off, Tyson, how are you doing today? And thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Again, our pleasure to get to have you and all these players on, give such a great perspective that we're able to get each week, and also give a great perspective off. First off, let's talk about it from the team perspective. What a big win over Byron Center, a West Side opponent, really tough team. Kind of talk about the momentum and the confidence that the team on the whole is able to take away from a win like that over Byron Center.
Our team, we definitely got a lot of confidence from that. Byron Center is really close to us. We know a lot of those guys. I think with that win, that's really big, especially going into conference play. So I think that definitely gave us a big confidence booster going into some pretty big games coming up.
Absolutely. You definitely said it with the start of the OK Red schedule here and how interesting things are going to get in the next 3 of the 4 weeks for you guys. And we'll in particular talk about Hudsonville coming up in just a moment. But I want to flip that question to talk about you a little bit, because what an unbelievable performance. We were just talking about it on our show right before you came on, that it is probably about the best performance we've seen out of you in terms of on the football field in the last few years. 4 total touchdowns. You had the kick return. Talk about also great defensive play both weeks, in particular had the pick week 1. Talk about where your confidence as a player is right now, how free you're playing, and just how much things are clicking right now on your role on both sides of the ball.
I think it's going pretty well for me. I think I'm feeling out a little bit and starting to feel a lot more comfortable in this leader role with a younger team that we have. And I'm really feeling more confidence and feeling loose to be able to really play my hardest, and hopefully we can keep that up.
And how big is it for you to be healthy this year as well? Obviously battled some injuries last year to come into the season. Healthy. I know the rest of the team has had some hiccups, but for you, able for the most part stay healthy so far this year, kind of keep that momentum going early as well.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things this year is my goal is to not miss more than a quarter, let's say, with injury. The goal is really not to get injured at all. So with my senior season, that's really huge too, because I really want to stay healthy the whole season.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's kind of break down, I think, the moment of the game from last week is the kick return. I guess for those of us that were never athletic enough to be on a football field, let alone never athletic enough to be returning kicks and to be returning kicks for touchdowns, take us through. What are you seeing on that play? Are things kind of are the holes appearing bigger than they actually are, smaller? Do you feel like you're shimmying through smaller holes? What is that? What are you seeing as you're taking the ball back on a kickoff return like that?
A lot of it, I think, is it just happens. Like, going into it, obviously there's a ton of nerves on the opening kickoff.
Right.
And going into it, that hole does seem way bigger than it probably actually is, and you kind of just know where to go. And our kick return team has done a great job of opening things up for me. which is really, really huge. So I'm really thankful to have those guys out there with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just interested always to get to hear some of those perspectives of guys. I remember a couple years ago when Cam Terry had like the 99-yard touchdown run. We asked him too, and it was a similar thing about saying the hole seems bigger than what it actually is when you're able to go through it. So that's interesting. Kind of breaking down other stuff on the field. Now a player that it's your third season in terms of parts of the year on varsity, second full year really as a starting running back. Tell me a little bit about the IQ, and I'm curious to hear about this, but the IQ level that it takes to play running back, your role within Coach Stiegel's T offense, with the blocking, with the receiving, with the running, with all the misdirection elements. Kind of tell me about some of the amount of studying and some of the IQ that you think it takes to be able to play this position within this offense.
Yeah, it is. It's very mental. There's a lot going into it. You have to watch a lot of film. There's a lot of fundamentals because this offense won't work if we don't do our fundamentals right. So we really have to focus on the fundamentals, on the film, what the defense is lined up in, what fronts they're in, stuff like that. And it's, especially with these young guys, it's really huge to get to learn that early in the week. So by game time, we're ready for whatever the defense can bring. And
tell me, you talked about your kind of leadership mentor role. For you as a running back, you obviously have a freshman in Jaden, Easton a sophomore, Carson a year younger than you as well. Tell me about your role as a running back with these younger guys, trying to mentor them along, also knowing the sort of insane talent and speed and athleticism that all these guys have along with that, alongside you.
Yeah, I really love working with the guys around me right now. The running backs are really cool to be around and great people. But I really enjoy working with them, and they like to come to me with questions, with this and that, and I love helping them out. And they do a really good job they're all really coachable. They all catch on very quickly, which is really, really huge to have. Yeah. Especially with a young team.
Oh, yeah, no, and it's been impressive week to week, and obviously seeing, Easton not playing week one, coming in with a pass-catching role that he had as well. It's fun to watch everyone gelling, especially to think we're only 2 weeks into this year and how much better things are even going to be rolling as we get later. Taking a bit of kind of a transition turn from that, let's take a look ahead for you. So I know we've obviously seen you star on the gridiron, also on the hardwood in the winter. What are some of your thoughts right now in terms of playing collegiately at the next level, maybe some different schools you're looking at? What are some of the plans you're looking at right now? I know we're early in your senior year. As I said to Carson last week, things changed for me 40 times by the time I actually went from the fall to the spring. But what are some of the things you're thinking in terms of next year right now, both in terms of academics, collegiately, and athletics?
Right now, I'm thinking that I want to play either basketball or football in college. I haven't quite decided yet, and I haven't quite decided what school I really want to go to yet. So my options are pretty open there. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited to see where this is going to take me, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be excited to watch that journey along the way as well, because I know on both forms of feel or forms of play, you certainly are someone that I think a team at the next level would want to see. And let's transition back now to this year and to what's coming up. It is the local rivalry game against Hudsonville, a very, very hungry Hudsonville team with a pair of tough losses coming in to this one. Tell me about some of the things you're expecting, because I think we're going to have a real fun war this Friday.
Yeah, Hudsonville, they are a great team. They have so many athletes, and yes, they're 0-2, but that really means nothing. They've played two great teams, and we know what they're capable of. And they have a lot of seniors that are returning this year, so we really know that they're going to play hard and they're going to be after it. And I'm excited to see how we can handle that.
And talk about the mindset. We'll take it one step further even. You look at these next 4 weeks and having Hudsonville, Rockford, Caledonia mixed in there, plus West Otto is 2-0 and look improved this year. I mean, the OK Red is such a tough place to play every year, especially this stretch coming up. Where are you at right now kind of preparing for that? Because after Hudsonville, it doesn't slow down.
No, not at all. In the Red, there is no game off. There is no easy game at all. So we're trying to just stay as prepared as possible and really just try to attack the week ahead of us and then move on to the next. So as Stiegel says, the biggest game is the next game.
Absolutely, and I am looking forward to that next game here against Hudsonville. Thanks again, Tyson, for your time tonight. Really, really terrific insight, and good luck out there this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, this is Michigan Game Night's Captain's Corner segment. We will be right back. And welcome back to MGN. Nate Chandler, thank you so much to Tyson Mann. Really, really terrific interview, and glad to get his insight into a lot of different things. So that's on the show. That'll also be on our pregame show coverage coming up Friday. Grandville, Hudsonville, Chandler, and that's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to start previewing the Eagles, what they bring to the table against the Bulldogs, previewing this matchup a little bit. As part of it, we aren't going to break it down the same way we broke down the plays a minute ago. We'll put some of Hudsonville up, though, on the screen. Chandler, at the end of the day, this is a football team in Hudsonville that they have played two of the toughest teams you can imagine the first 2 weeks of the year. Saline, who's got C.J. Carr, of course. They forced Carr to 4 turnovers. That's something to talk about, but Carr going to Notre Dame. Is the grandson of Lloyd Carr. Everyone knows the story. He's the grandson of Lloyd Carr. He's still, for some reason, spurned Michigan. That's why they didn't get to play at the big house, allegedly, not spreading anything. He went against the family. You don't go against the family. He goes to Notre Dame. Hudsonville forces 4 turnovers against him. They still hang on and win. The next week they play Orchard Lake, St. Mary's. A little bit of rivalry element there. That's where Ike Irish left them for. Of course, Ike wound up going. Did he go first round or second? I don't know when he went. It wasn't quite first round. Whatever he went, He went in the draft this year for the MLB as a catcher. So rambling, tough matchups the first 2 weeks of the year, to say the least, for Hudsonville, Chandler. And that's where I'll kind of start you with it, because this is a team, we asked Tyson as well this. You know, this team is good. I picked them to win the Red, and they are hungry.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is really something that's building for close to a year and a half now. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit in our OK Red previews and predictions that we've done, but kind of excited to fully break down Hudsonville here and kind of get to talk about them. But yeah, I mean, a team that a lot considered. I mean, they look like a playoff team. They play like a playoff team, but last year, incredibly difficult schedule, and lost a lot of heartbreaking games and came up just short. Now again, two very difficult weeks for them to open up the season, and 2 losses once again. So I mean, they're coming into OK Red conference play and looking for something to prove. They still have a lot of time to turn their season around, and it starts this week against Grandville.
Let's talk about this team a little bit, Chandler, because the big thing that you're going to be able to take away from them is this is a team that returns a lot. It's why I thought so high of them. They return, yes, quite a bit on the front line, but in particular it's the talent. It's the quarterback, Trey Carr. It's the running back, Drew Bain. It's receivers, Reardon, Vanderveen. They are loaded with talent all over the place. Here's Vanderveen. He's looked so good. That's the main first thing, is that the skill position players on the offense and defense as well out wide, they are loaded. They bring everyone back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of experience that they brought back, names that have been in this rivalry game before. As you said, some big bodies out there on the outside at the receiver position and some skill positions as well.
And a guy like Brad Reardon is going to be going to Navy, I believe. We talked about that. So, yeah, we talked about it because I don't know what position he's going to play. He's going to be wing back. I guess they use slot ends a little bit there, too. But regardless, so he's going to be playing D1 football. Still, all this telling me Trey Carr throws such a pretty ball. We've said that for a couple years since we first saw him. They do some different things, interestingly. Vanderveen's a big receiver that looks really, really good early in the year. And, yeah, a couple of tough losses. The defense, like we said, forcing turnovers. This is a good football team. Don't let that record fool you whatsoever, because this team is really good. This is a team that I still think can go on a run and compete right at the top of the OK Red. I'm not sure I'm even as gung-ho as in terms of being a winner in the OK Red, but I guess you never know, because they are very good. This game, they're going to be so hungry. This is a game, it's 2-0 versus 0-2. It's not. Quite frankly, it's not that simple.
Yeah, I mean, really, you could throw the records out. That's the cliche. But I mean, when you talk about the experience and the talent on the offensive end, really both these first 2 games, I believe it was 16 points there. You just saw week 1, 14 here in week 2. So I mean, an offense that has a lot of talent. And part of that's due to the tough defensive matchups that they're going against. These are good teams.
And the turf.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. That's got to take a while to adjust.
That's not the TV. It's red or pink or whatever color it's wound up being at Orchard Lake over the years. But yeah, I mean, still pretty big up front as well. They've got some pieces in traditional Hudsonville fashion like that. But yeah, I mean, that's what the story talks about. And we talked about it with Byron Center. This is it's an annual discussion. Let's be honest. It's the Hudsonville Wildcat quarterback conundrum. We saw them do it with Ike Irish in 2019. It turned the game on its head. They won because of it. We didn't really see them do it as much in 2020. Of course, that unbelievable game we were outdoors. They were outdoors too, believe it or not. But unbelievable game at Hudsonville that the Bulldogs won at the last second in that one. Last year, they brought Reardon in, played the Wildcat quarterback. It's something that's there, and we see Tailgate have the have things work the way it did for him as a faster, more Wildcat-ish type quarterback, it brings it up in your mind, and you have to be ready for it. It's something that this coaching staff has been so ready to utilize at almost any moment throughout the years.
Yeah, it's definitely been a weapon for them. And the first 2 weeks of the season, they've been passing the ball a little bit more. But I think when you start to look at this game, you can always figure it's going to be a physical style game. You're going to see some more rushing the football, of course, on the Grandville end, but I think Hudsonville as well. And yeah, there's a little bit of concern there when you look at Grandville. And I mean, the rushing yards in total as a defense have been fantastic. Really holding running backs to 20 yards last week. So, I mean, shutting down the running game strictly from the running back perspective has been fantastic. It's been the quarterbacks, both quarterbacks from Byron Center. One was over 100 yards. One was very close, I believe, if not over as well. So I think you're going to see a heavy dose of that, whether that's what Hudsonville's been doing early on in the season or whether that's going to be a game plan change coming into this one because they've had success in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to watch. And as I said, it's something we're always going to monitor. You always wonder what the changes are. I feel like Hudsonville is just always one of those teams that you can definitely expect them to get pretty aggressive with the changes throughout the course of the football game, in particular at halftime. I always feel like Coach Sandy is one that wants to come out of halftime with some extra little trick. Speaking of extra little trick, I don't think we mentioned it in the last half, and this is a little bit getting in the preview, but again, Grandville has been very straight up this year, and this is where things kind of get into talking about what Hudsonville knows, what they don't know. They've been very straight up. Short yardage situations, we've a couple times seen them go to the single wing. We saw them a couple years ago use the flex bone or the double wing based on whatever you may call it. I mean, Coach Stiegel has already shown to us he has a couple tricks up his sleeve, and I think we've just barely seen the beginning of those tricks. I think that's the other fascinating thing in this game is I just feel like when you've seen how basic Granville's offense has been so far, I think there's something in there that's coming that we're going to see this week, especially with Carson Smith, how good he's been throwing the ball, different things. I don't know. I feel like there's something in there.
Yeah, I think that's always one of my favorite times of the football season is when you start to see these rivalry games. You see the OK Red, these big matchups. All of a sudden, you see these little things that you haven't seen early on in the season. The playbook starts to expand a little bit. You see Coach Stiegel go into his bag, and he's creating some sort of crazy formation that we haven't seen in a while. And I think definitely opportunity here when you get into a game like this where it's going to be close. You're going to need some big conversions potentially at some point where, maybe those plays that were just 2-point conversions to try to get some practice out on the football field are now going to be used in big-time situations.
Absolutely, and let's maybe drill down on some of these Hudsonville guys a little bit more, Chandler. Of course, these hyper-talented, especially the skill guys that we know that are returning, that provide such interesting matchups for the Bulldogs to have to deal with. Starts with Trey Carr, senior quarterback, second year running this offense. We've seen him now. Throws a really, really nice ball. One of the best balls in the OK Red, I think, that you're going to find. He runs well as well. We've seen that in the last couple weeks with some touchdowns. He's been able to put up for some scoring. He's been able to do maybe with the legs as well, at least some of the yards he's putting up with the legs. It's going to start with Carr. He's got great weapons to get the ball to, but it starts with what he is able to do, getting it to them in such a typically fairly efficient manner.
Yeah, very efficient. Dual threat quarterback that they've been throwing the football a little bit more, and part of that's because of some of the wide receivers and some of the other skill position players that we're going to talk about. They've been opening up the pass game, and he's got the ability to do so. I think a guy that's fairly mobile, a lot like what we saw from the quarterbacks at position with Byron Center this past week, but probably a more proficient passer than either of those guys were as well. So definitely can open up the passing game as well. And I think we previewed it a little bit. I think you can expect him to run the football a little bit more than he has in the first couple weeks of the season as well.
Yeah, and you know what? The receivers you talk about, Brad Rare, the Navy commit that does a lot of different things. He may be the Wildcat quarterback if they go to that option at some point in this game. Eli Vanderveen, very big, has looked very, very good early in the season as well. I think those two guys at the core of things, Chandler, are going to be the ones to watch because they're the big name returns. They got some other really interesting young talent, sophomore talent as well, but I think it kind of starts with those two. They're big, they're athletic, they're just tough to match up and play against, and it's going to create some interesting matchups I watch because Hungerford and Ruff are big corners matched up on big, fast receivers. That's going to be the matchup of the day to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the running game going to be huge, but I think, as you said, the matchup out wide, it's more talent at the wide receiver position, those big bodies that we're talking about, a little bit more like what Grand Blanc was rolling out there, where they've got guys that can go and get it. They've got a quarterback that can throw the football and allow them to do so, and that's going to test the secondary a little bit for this Bulldogs team. They passed the test in week 1, but definitely some more talent that they're going to be going up against this week.
Run game's still there, too. Drew Bain, who really lit the Bulldogs up last year, especially in the first half, he returns at running back. Dykstra, some other big guys up front, back as well. So you can't forget about that really key identity that is Hudsonville football still there.
Yeah, definitely. When they've got a running back like that can still be an efficient runner and a bruiser, it makes it very difficult if they're going to run some read option looks where we're talking so much about them trying to shut down the quarterback run game. They've still got that running back that can be dangerous back there and hurt you as well.
Now let's talk about it. Just the 1,000-foot view, some of the keys to this game, mostly from the Grandville perspective, because we know what Hudsonville can do as a dynamic offense, as a defense that knows how to stop Grandville as well. What are some of the keys you're looking at? If your coach Land is trying to slow down that attack, if your coach Stiegel trying to figure out how to stop a very proficient team in terms of a team that can stop your offensive attack, what are some of the main things you think Grandville's working on this week in practice?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to get a little creative when it comes to how they're going to stop this team, because as we talked about, they've got guys at multiple positions. It's not just one thing that you're going to be able to focus on. So I think you have to trust some of the experience that you've got in the secondary a little bit. You can allow those guys to try to play one-on-one, give them a little bit of leash to play with, see what happens, and then try to bring some creative blitzes in the run game to try to slow things down, because I think the last thing they want is a repeat of games in the past where you've just got the quarterback power running after power run, read option looks like that, where they're just going to chunk their way down the field. I think definitely some dangerous wide receivers. They can open up in the pass game, but I think you try to play that way, see if they're going to take advantage of that. I mean, an offense overall that's put up 14 and 16 points. I think I said that earlier, but it has more talent than what they've shown there, so they're looking to kind of break out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be so fascinating. We are on the air Friday night, 6:30 p.m. You know how to find us, MichiganGameNight.com or MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. Just the enhanced radio feed this week for home games, when we will have that Grandville YouTube feed that I think worked out really well this week. I went back and watched it. It looked all synced up and good. So, again, thanks to Charlie, Brian, everyone at Grandville for helping put that together, because that's really been a pretty awesome thing to get to utilize so far this year. So, yeah. Make sure you tune in Friday, 6:30 p.m. You know where to find us through MichiganSportsRadio.com and through MichiganGameNight.com, the Michigan Sports Radio app. The broadcast is on our Facebook. The broadcast is on our Twitter. If you can't find the broadcast, it might be a you problem, but I'm not allowed to say that because that sounds mean. So make sure you find it, because it is going to be one heck of a ball game Friday night. We'll step aside. We'll be right back, because it's time to rank. Who's the best in the red? Who's the best in the rest of the OK that's not the red? We're going to tell you now, and we are definitely right.
The sinister cries haunted Mary through the night. Dawn neared, and still the voice tormented her. She ran towards the safety of her car, flung open the door, and a coyote had somehow gotten locked inside. But the damaged interior was covered, thanks to Farmers Insurance. Coyote Carpool, August 1st, 2015. Talk to a farmer's agent. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Contact the Scott Bates Agency today, 616-531-3441. A proud supporter of MichiganGameNight.com.
Can you identify your number one personal trait? The thing that you do better than most others? If not, this may be a good time to think this through. If you're really good at writing, then why use the phone? If you're great on the phone, why use email? If you have exceptional human relation skills, why sit back and let others lead? I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities Company. Playing to our strengths is something we do very well at Centennial. And if you're already a customer, you know what I mean. If not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
And welcome back to Game Night. Nate Chandler. All right, let's do some rankings. Let's talk about it. First time watching. Don't know why you're still watching, but if you're for first time watching, here's what we do. We rank the OK Red, because that's where we primarily cover. That's kind of an older segment that we brought back this year. And then we do what we call our OK Power 6, which is the top team in each of the OK Conference subdivisions, and something that no one has copied yet, which is amazing, because there's a lot of coverage in West Michigan. I'm not criticizing anyone of copying us, but there are even some things that are called Game Night now. Don't know where that idea came from, but that's out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to keep your mouth shut, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I mean,
I am too.
Nate's just airing it all out tonight. He's going after everyone.
OK Red. We're going to do it from the bottom. So we'll go 8 through 6 and then whatever. So I'll go first. So 8, I got Grand Haven. They beat Traverse City West. Congratulations to Grand Haven. They won. I actually almost thought about moving them up. The reason why I don't move them up is I don't think they're better than the 2 teams ahead of them. There's your reasoning.
I can follow that.
Okay. Then I try to keep it simple for you. And then we have Jenison. Also won. They beat Forest Hills Northern. Pretty good team. I still like Jenison. I think they could be interesting. I'm not saying that they're going to beat Caledonia this week, but I think that could be an interesting game. And they got West Ottawa. They're 2-0. They beat Portage Northern. They open up the stadium with a win. Can't ask for much more. What do you have for your bottom 3?
Yeah, we've got the same 3 teams, just slightly flipped in the order. I also have Grand Haven at 8. They beat a playoff team last year that we've seen a couple times.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's an impressive win, I guess.
Playoff team that keeps coming within 40, too.
Exactly. No, so, I mean, I think...
this is not good for me, folks. I got to stop talking.
No, I mean, you're exactly right, though. I think that they got to win. The problem is pretty much everybody else in the red one as well,
Yeah.
so tough to move them up when they're already towards the bottom. So I've got them at a pretty distant 8. I've got West Ottawa at 7. I think the 2-0 is a very good start for them, turning things around. I think definitely they have the potential to have a successful season now that they've got off to that start. But for now, I'm leaving Jenison at that 6th spot, even though they're 1-1 and West Ottawa's 2-0.
Yeah, West Ottawa just freaking airing it out so far this year as well. I mean, that's been really impressive to kind of see what they're doing there. All right, 5, 4, and 3. I still have East Kentwood at 5, and I had a tough time because they came so close to Muskegon. They then beat Brother Rice. They probably deserve, and using some of the logic I'm going to use later, they probably deserve to be a little bit higher up. So that was a tough call. I've still got Hudsonville at 4 just because I am so high on them anyway, and they deserve, with who they've played, they deserve some amount of credit for that so far and keeping those games close as well. 3, I've got Caledonia. They beat up on North Farmington, and we are definitely separate of a lot of people in terms of the Caledonia rankings, because I'm seeing on some other polls of different media members, they're 1 for everyone. So that definitely shows how tough it is at the top of the red. I don't know what you've got going on, but I've still just got them at 3 because I mostly like the 2 teams who I think you may know are coming so much more that are just above them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, once again, I've got the same 3 teams, just slightly flipped in the order, and you kind of hit on the reasons for that. I've got Hudsonville at 5. I think the 2 losses and then playing Grandville, as we've talked about at length already here tonight, I think another tough game for them, and of course, getting off to an 0-2 start is going to be difficult. I don't think that necessarily eliminates them from playoff contention. I've still got them in my playoff tier, so to speak, when I'm breaking these down. But I've got West Ottawa 5. I've bumped East Kentwood up to 4 because they were able to compete with Muskegon and then beat Brother Rice. I'm buying into the East Kentwood hype just a little bit to the point where I've got them ahead of Hudsonville, mostly due to the schedule coming up immediately. But and then Caledonia 3 as well. I mean, they continue to win, and so yeah, as you said, the guys that have Caledonia, one of the best teams in the area, I think it's definitely they have a case for it. Right. They've only allowed 14 points in 2 weeks, so the defense is looking pretty strong, and of course they've got some D1 talent there as well. So I think it's splitting hairs for me this early on in the season when you're talking about the top 3 teams, but for right now, leaving Caledonia at 3.
Yeah, and we're going to learn for sure. We're going to really start to learn in these next few weeks. We talked about it because it's the same thing for Grandville, for Hudsonville, for Caledonia. They're all on this kind of same little schedule right here where they have got each other all right in this little mix. So they're going to get to see each other. We're going to learn a lot about what everyone has got coming to the table at this point in time. All right, top 2. So I last week decided, because I thought their week 1 win was more impressive, I put Grandville above Rockford. Grandville won again. Rockford came back, beat Mona Shores, so now the schedule's more even. You know, Rockford's such a highly regarded team. It absolutely makes sense to put Rockford in at number 1 over Grandville. Absolutely, that's maybe the right call to make at this point in time. I have Rockford at 2. I have Grandville at 1. Because, yes.
Of course you do. Yeah, no,
of course
it makes
I do.
sense. Yeah. Nothing hypocritical about No, I'm not going back on anything you said earlier. No, I like that. But, no, if Rockford had lost, obviously this makes this an easy debate here, and you put Grandville number 1. I still think Mona Shores is a very good team, and the fact that Rockford was able to come back, that's still a very quality win. I'm leaving Rockford 1, Grandville 2. But like you said here, I think if Grandville is able to pull off a somewhat convincing win or even a win at all over Hudsonville, that debate's just going to rage on until these 2 teams meet.
We'll learn week 5. It's that simple. That's when we'll learn, and that's when we definitely will be able to sort things out. Maybe, and again, I mean, who knows what things actually look like by the time we get there? Because all the other matchups going on before then, maybe things are shaken up before we get there. Anyway, so that's where things are rolling. I have Grandville at the top. You have Rockford at the top. So same at the top that we had last week, but a lot of shaking the rest of the way, and things I think are going to shake up even more now that we're actually in the conference. So now we actually get to start ranking the teams based on them playing each other. So now what we're saying really means something, because it meant something before. Now it really means something. Okay, Power 6. Okay, Red. I think everyone has an idea what it is. I have Grandville. You have Rockford atop the OK Red at this point in time. OK Green, I want to start here. So Mona Shores lost. Muskegon got throttled by De La Salle, but I think any team in the state, any division gets throttled by De La Salle this year. I think they're the best team in the state of Michigan regardless of division. One team has not gotten throttled yet. One team has only been throttling people, including playing the team that is right there with them along with Grandville for the best team of running their T offense. That's Cedar Springs in terms of running it. Not the team I'm going to talk about. Zeeland West. Coach Shilato's team has been killing everyone. They've been killing really good competition. And I know with these Zeeland West teams, when they're rolling right and they have 3 backs and they have a quarterback that's good and they have the big line that Coach Shilato he has, this team, I mean, they go on state championship runs. And this is all of a sudden a team that's really early in the year. They're starting to look like one of those Zeeland West teams. I'm going to put them ahead of both the Muskegon area teams.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that we've seen some of the Zeeland West teams of old, and when we were in high school, even a little bit before that, where they definitely can be a dangerous team. I think being 2-0, I don't think that's crazy. But I'm sticking. Well, actually, I did have Muskegon the first couple weeks of the season.
You did.
I'm making a move here.
You're making a move,
but not to Zeeland West, to the team that lost. And
Makes sense.
Yep. Okay. You'll hear my logic. I've got Mona Shores. I think the way I'm framing it is that they were winning that game most of the way against a Rockford team.
Last 2 minutes there by 4 scores.
Exactly. A Rockford team that I've got as the top of the OK Red.
Yep.
So the fact that they almost won that game to me is more inspiring than what the 2 Muskegon games have been, where they were close with East Kentwood, which we talked about East Kentwood.
Yeah, now you're big on East Kentwood.
Yep.
So what do you actually believe?
We're all over the place here. But, no, I think Muskegon, I still think, can be a very good team. Just the fact that they took that big loss, as you said, a very good opponent there. So nothing to hang their head too much about that. But then the week 1, combined with the week 1 close game against East Kentwood, for right now, I'm rolling with Mona Shores.
All right, okay, what? I mean, it actually makes sense. Okay, White, I'll let you go first, 'cause I'm actually curious to hear what you're going to say here, because you were Mr. Byron Center last year. We now have seen Byron Center play even to maybe add to that, but they did lose.
Yeah, so this one's tough for me. I'm going with Forest Hill Central, which is what I had last week as well. Still 2-0 there. I do think now having seen Byron Center in person, I think there's a chance that they can compete there in the conference. I think if they get the quarterback situation figured out and they grow on some of the flashes that we saw Thursday night, I think there's a chance that they win the conference. I'm not quite ready to put them first yet.
I actually wish I didn't let you go first, because you just word for word said what I was going to say. By default, Forest Hill Central won 42-0 over Portage Central, so you have to keep them where they are. But no, I mean, I think what we've seen in Byron Center, they're going to be right there. That's a very good team that I think they're very young. They're putting pieces together. If they're able to compete with Grandville the way they're able to compete with Grandville, I think that's saying something about, I think, where they're going to be going. All right, OK Gold. I'm going first this time. I'm not letting you steal this.
That's fair.
Grand Rapids Catholic Central beat Detroit Loyola 41-6. So far on the year against 2 pretty good opponents. Grand Rapids Catholic Central has won by a combined 95-6. Do you have any more to add?
I do not. No,
okay, nothing more to add. Grand Rapids Catholic, South Christian, pretty good.
Yeah, that was my only point. It was going to be South Christian's 2-0 as well. Only allowed 13 total points, and have played GRCC close in the past. That's the best I can do for a second place argument. So.
That honestly might almost be too many words for what this conference needs. 95-6 against 2 good teams in far bigger divisions than their own. 95-6, traveling to the other side of the state for both those games. Okay, Blue. I'll go first again. I'm going to stay West Catholic. I've had them as of you so far. They beat Ferndale 43-0, so you can't fault the team that wins 43-0. Kloss has been good. They've got other stuff going as well. I'll let you go, and then I'll kind of talk about, because I think there's some other interesting players that I think are starting to show up in this conference.
Yeah, I've got West Catholic as well, sticking with them. The offense, as you said, still dominant, much like what we expected, and kind of hoped they were going to be coming back into this season. The defense there allowed, I think, less than 100 total yards this past week as well, so kind of showing that complete football team that can win a conference. Unity Christian was my team at the beginning of the year. That was kind of that second place that maybe, depending, if they showed something early on, well, they're 0-2 now, and it's been a tough start to the season for them, so I think that distance is growing between West Catholic and Unity.
And that's not one of the teams, obviously, we're going to talk about. I mean, that's, we're a little bit of a Unity Christian organization here as well with how much we've done. We were there with them all the way last year. I mean, man, they're and again, the conference may help them because it's not the strongest conference outside of, I think, some of the top teams we're about to talk about, but they're in an interesting position right now in terms of a program coming off that loss at, you don't want to overreact, but coming off the way they lost, and they turned over so much of the roster, but man, they're at an interesting point right now. They're at a crossing roads. I'm curious to see the way that they're able to put things back together here in the next little bit. Other teams in the conference, so, Holland Christian, Hamilton are winning games and pretty good, but they aren't the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about Coopersville. Coopersville running the ball very well, Dylan Merlot, a terrific back, but also their defense, and they win through defense. They're the team that I think can give the most interesting game to West Catholic in this conference this year. Spring Lake's been okay too.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams kind of in the middle of the pack there that, depending on how the season goes, might be close. I still think it's West Catholic by a decent amount here. But, Hamilton 2-0, Coopersville 2-0 as well, and starting to get into conference play there as well, where we'll see if someone's going to be able to try to make that leap.
Now, I'm sure you're with me, though. Let's say Unity doesn't lose the rest of the year. How surprised will you actually be?
Not overly surprised.
Right. So that's the thing.
It's still possible. The talent, the system, everything is still there. I saw they were up big last week and just kind of collapsed a little bit again. But that's 3 straight games that you have kind of halftime mistakes, halftime collapses, or second half collapses. Like, that's interesting. And is it system related? Is it a team that, they run the T, but they run it so fast and they aren't quite what they were last year? But, is it something like they're a T team, but can they not ice games away the way Grandville or Cedar Springs or Zeeland West can? I don't know. I'm not the expert there, and like I said, I think things are going to get fixed there. But that, to me, is crazy to watch early on in the season. Okay, Silver. I had Comstock Park so far on the season. They won 63-8 over Howland, which, by the way, a bit of news regarding Howland. So we wish good luck to Howland last week because they had a rough start against Howland Christian, which I'm not sure is a A-level football team this year. They're a decent football team, but I'm not sure they aren't quite the level of what's coming. Howland has announced that they're going to play 2 more games this year, then cancel the season just to fight off any potential injuries or whatever. Now, those next 2 games are Mona Shores and Zeeland West. Good luck to the Howland Dutch from our hometown. We have a public park of Howland right across from us here at the MGN World Headquarters Studios. So good luck to the Dutchmen. As we each are Dutchmen, I wish them luck, but good luck. Oh, you have to talk still. Okay, Silver. Yeah, okay, Silver. Comstock Park. I was completely wrong on this one. I'm going to take the loss.
Folks.
Right off the bat here. This is rare.
Stop. Those words, I've known him for a very long time. Those words you just heard, I was wrong on that one. I've never heard that in my life. In my life. So I am all ears.
Yeah, no, I mean, is it just the first time I'm wrong, or... That's what we
so
don't know,
much.
But no. See, I'm willing to admit it here. It's hard to defend this one. I had Sparta to begin the year. They're 0-2, looking like probably not going to win the conference. I mean, still a long season when you talking about conference slate here, but I think I'm going to admit that I was wrong there. I'm taking Comstock Park. I think Belding is 2-0 as well. They've dominated a couple opponents early on as well, but I'm rolling Comstock Park.
All right, that'll do it. That's some rankings. 6:30 p.m. Friday, MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN, MichiganGameNight.com/live, Michigan at MI Game Night, Twitter, we have a stream. At MI Game Night, Facebook, we have a stream. Michigan Sports Radio app, the stream. Find us in any of those places. We'll be talking about football. We won't just be talking about football. We'll be talking about Grandville versus Hudsonville. We'll be there live even, talking about what's happening live in front of us. So make sure you tune in because I'm excited. It's a heck of a game. This is one of my favorite. I think Rockford is the little bit edgier rivalry, but this one's local. This one's got some bad blood. This has got a little bit of, kind of neighbor-type war to it as well. This is always a fun one. Any last words?
Yeah, no, excited to see that rivalry game. Excited to be back on Friday night. Something just a little different about being able to go to a high school football game on a Friday night. Excited for that first run of the year. So it should be a good one.
Highest stands to climb up with all of our gear of the year at Hudsonville. That's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm also thinking about the football that's coming. It's going to be great. We'll see you all Friday night.